Good Tuesday afternoon, everybody. I'm meteorologist Tim Pandages here with your tropical update. It is November the 1st, 30 more days left of hurricane season. Typically, climatologically speaking, November is the quietest of our 6-month season. Only 5% of all named storms occur within the month. And we already have one named storm out there that formed today, and that's the brand new addition, Tropical Storm Martin. It joins Lisa with 2 named storms out in the Atlantic Basin right now that we are watching. So far this season, now we're up to 13 named storms with 30 days left in the entirety of the 2022 Atlantic season. Here's an overview of the basin at the current time. Notice that neither storm is going to be a threat to the United States. Martin is heading up well northeast of Bermuda. It actually strengthens as it heads into the North Atlantic, becoming a Category 1. And then Lisa will impact land in the imminent future. We're looking at a Category 1, maybe a moderate to high-end Category 1 ahead of landfall in Belize within the next 24 to 36 hours. All right, here's a recap of our list for 2022. Again, we're at 13. Martin is the latest addition. Next on the list, if one were to come, would be Nicole, the 14th named storm. All right, let's jump over and talk about Lisa. Yesterday when we talked, it was barely a tropical storm, 40-mile-an-hour winds. Now we're up to 60-mile-per-hour winds. Tropical storm forces from 39 to 74 mile per hour winds. So we're moderate to high-end tropical storm at the moment. Its westward motion has not slowed down at all, still moving at 14 miles per hour. And the pressure has come down a bit, but still rather high for a pressure or wind gauge of 60 miles per hour. It is, however, strengthening. Hurricane Hunter aircraft has been flying recon missions in this. They've found evidence of it beginning to organize more and strengthen a little bit too. It's forecast to intensify a bit more too, becoming a Category 1 hurricane before it makes landfall. All right, here's a look now at the water vapor imagery. Yesterday, it was really showing some dry air off to the west of where Lisa was located, and it still does, although the atmosphere in the mid-levels has moistened up just a little bit. You can see the widespread tropical moisture associated with Lisa there. Visible satellite imagery. The system itself, in terms of its wind profile, is a little bit asymmetric, and what I mean by that is we're finding the strongest of the winds mainly to the northeast and eastern side of the system, with winds out ahead of it to the west, not terribly strong. So that could be good news as it heads towards land, with the western side not seeing the strongest of the winds, at least at this time. It could certainly wrap those stronger winds around it and intensify a bit more like it's forecast to do. So we'll see how that evolves in the next 24 to 36 hours or so. Of course, it's got plenty of warm waters, energy to work with here. Sea surface temperatures at the skin of the ocean, upper 80s to around 90, and we've talked about this numerous times in the Caribbean. This is some of the deepest, warmest water in the entirety of the Atlantic Basin, and it's about to move into a pocket of some very deep, warm water here. That's why it's expected to intensify further, because as it mixes up the ocean, something called upwelling, it's not mixing up cooler waters from below. When you've got deep, warm water here, you're just building up warmer waters from a depth. So you've got a replenishment of that energy profile there that it'll be using to intensify and strengthen a bit more. Here's the official forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center. Not much variation over the last couple days, with a westward trajectory headed towards the Belize area. Up to 90 mile per hour winds expected now at its peak as a Category 1 hurricane just ahead of landfall by tomorrow evening, Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. This is depicted here. So likely seeing the onset of at least tropical storm force winds 12 to 18 hours ahead of landfall. Rainfall will obviously be a big deal too. We're talking about mudslide possibilities, some flash flooding with a tropical system making landfall, and then raining itself out. Rainfall totals here could exceed a half a foot, maybe up to a foot of rain in some local areas there as it makes landfall. Now let's talk about the arrival time, or the possibility of seeing at least tropical storm force winds. I think that's up to like 70 to 80% chance in Belize and areas to the north and south there. So highly likely with a Category 1 hurricane making landfall there. All right, let's jump over to Tropical Storm Martin now. 50 mile per hour winds moving off to the east at 12. Pressure is lower than what we're seeing with Lisa, but notice its profile on infrared imagery doesn't look all that impressive. It's got that comma shape to it. It's likely making that transition to subtropical and extratropical as it builds to the north, but it's still working with relatively warm waters for that far north of a latitude. Anything shaded in red here is water temperatures that are over 80 degrees. It's November 1st, okay? These waters are way above where they should be for this time of the year, so that's allowing for plenty of energy available for Martin to use to strengthen further as it builds to the north, and it's expected to become a Category 1 hurricane like Lisa, with winds of 80 to 85 miles per hour, in fact, gaining speed and strength as it lifts to the north. It'll be merging with another system and becoming a pretty impressive storm system in the North Atlantic by later on this week into next weekend. But the good news is, won't be impacting any land, so that's really good news. All right, that's the latest on the Atlantic Basin with Lisa and Martin. Till next time, until we see you tomorrow, you can find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on TikTok at TimTalkWeather. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.